Okay, here we go. Recording on my phone again. Still is not working with recording online, and so we get all these weird shadows and stuff, but oh well, right? So Unit 4. This honestly, and I think I said this already in the module, this is really probably about my favorite unit. I don't know, I like the independence also, but I love this unit because we've been dealing a lot first with, you know, the conquest and death and destruction and fighting and really difficult things. And then we get into administration, which, you know, is important and interesting. But yeah, it's administration, right? And economics. And we've done a little bit with society, but this is really where we get into the heart of the matter. And I love this because learning about this in colonial Latin America starts to give you a feel for society and social life today, right? I mean, okay, so the chapters are family and society and then living in an empire. Obviously, they're not living in an empire anymore. Yeah, at least since the 1990s when the U.S. got out of the Cold War and we decided to stop interfering so much. But anyway, so this is where we get into what's important to people. Okay, so we've already, I mean, you've seen a little bit of that with, you know, economy and what people are doing, but now it's not just the administration in Spain and Portugal and the church and wealth and trade and defense. It's marriages. It's learning about families and honor. Honor was huge in colonial Latin America and it still is a big part of Latin American society today. We learn about what they ate and how they dressed and how they entertained. And then we look at how this was different for different parts of society because it wasn't the same for everyone. Even within Spanish society, it wasn't the same for everyone. There was levels. And so we learn about that, different options for entertainment and food and work and just everyday life. And this is really sometimes the history we don't get, right? But it's the history that really helps us to understand societies and the way they're set up today. So that's what we're dealing with. You have 2 chapters in your textbook. You have let me look at the module while I'm here. You have chapter 7, which is the family and society. You have chapter 8, which is living in an empire. You have 3 documents or 3 chapters of documents from Colonial Lives, chapters 17, 18, and 19. All 3 of these chapters and documents deal with issues of marriages and court cases and honor. So they all fit really with what's going on in the regular textbook chapters. You have only one PowerPoint. It's pretty extensive, okay, but a lot of it is images, a lot of it's pictures. So it shouldn't be that difficult to get through. Your 2 quizzes, right? So they're over the textbook chapters, but they will have things from the documents in them, as did the last ones. But I think some of you didn't pay attention to the fact that I put that right in the quiz titles. I put that in the descriptions. So be aware, you have to know the documents chapters also to do this. Your discussion is a little different this time because you are going to take the information you've read, you're going to take these situations and this everyday life that you've learned about, and you are going to create a quote-unquote personal narrative. So you have to choose somebody. You have to decide on gender and social class and ethnicity and occupation and where they lived in the empire, right? If they lived in a city, if they lived in rural areas, if they lived in a mining area, you have to decide what their lives would have been like, right? So you're creating a historical narrative, what their daily life was like, what was important to them, whether they worked or not, if they were protected, those type of things. Don't make it be a real person. I don't want real people. Don't go up and do research on somebody in colonial Latin America. You are taking this and you are formulating this narrative from what you've read in the textbook chapters and the documents. So you are really making a created person. And then when you interact with each other, I would like you to respond and interact as the person of your narrative. So you're going to respond to others still using the voice of your historical narrative. I know this sounds difficult, and it can be, but it also can be a super fun way to get into the history and to really get a feel for the colonial society. So the other thing we're working on now is your research project update. In the syllabus, you will see it is due at the same time as this unit on March 11th. But I've decided that if you want to have the extra week that is actually spring break, you can have that. So you can turn it in as late as March 18th. If you want to have your spring break completely free, which I totally get and totally support, then turn it in earlier, right? It's up to you. So the unit is due on March 11th. Your research update is due on March 18th. Your research update includes 2 parts. One is either an outline or a couple of descriptive paragraphs of your project and what you're working on. You must, no matter whether it's an outline or a paragraph or a couple paragraphs a page, you must include a working thesis statement. What is it that you are going to be arguing in your project? Okay. This can change, of course. We still have a few weeks before your project is due, but you need to be thinking about these things as you're putting together your research, okay? The second part of it is you must include an annotated bibliography. What an annotated bibliography is you have your sources listed, of course, correctly cited in alpha order, but then each source has an annotation that describes the source, summarizes it, and tells why it's important to your project. Okay, I gave examples of this in the assignment for the project update. So you have information. If you have questions, of course, ask me. I can give you further examples. So historians cite using the Chicago Manual of Style. The examples I gave you for annotated bibliography will deal with the Chicago Manual of Style. It's just something that, you're supposed to cite the way that people in the field you're working in cite. So it's not APA, it's not MLA for historians, it's the Chicago Manual. If you have any questions, let me know. Like I said, I really like this unit. I hope you will as well. The documents are pretty interesting. They're pretty fun. I mean, one of them is about protesting a marriage. Another one is about gaining permission to marry. Another is a guy accusing people about beating his wife. It sounds awful, which of course it is. But it's interesting because it shows how society dealt with these different issues. All right, so let's get started. If you have any questions, please let me know.